up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. Steve and Will here to go over some start-sit questions for you all today. Will, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, Steve. How are you?
I can't complain. I finally just killed this fly that I've been battling for the past 2 hours, so I'm feeling pretty proud of myself right now.
Oh, I've heard. I've heard you swinging before we started here.
Yeah, they go into the crevices, man. Like, I don't know if it's game plan or what, but they know where that fly swatter has trouble reaching, and they gravitate to those areas. Annoying.
Yeah, I was. It's a nicer day. We were pretty cold here in the Philadelphia area over the weekend, but it was relatively nice today. So I figured while I was cooking dinner in the oven, I could pop outside for a few minutes and read. And I sat down, and within about 5 minutes, I've got about 6 mosquito bites. So had to come right back inside, unfortunately.
Yeah, same. We're doing, since we got the new yard, there's some weeding that needs to be done and things we want to do with the yard, and we figured we'd knock it out now instead of springtime. Because, it's cold here, obviously. I'm like in the middle of Ontario. And still mosquitoes. My knees are all torn up, and
I thought you'd get away from them north of the wall.
Yeah, you would think, but not so much. I guess because it bounces back and forth. Like you said, it's warm this week. It was cold last week. So like when it's cold, there's no bees, there's no bugs. When it's warm, they're all out still. So
my question is, where do they go? Just for this little weekend. I imagine, they die over the winter, but where do they go when it's cold for a weekend and warm again?
I don't know. I don't like bees just stay in the hive. I don't know where mosquitoes live. They live in the ground or just
they
don't live anywhere. They just fall asleep on trees
What's
or something.
The deal with
I don't know. I don't know. I need an insect degree, I guess.
We can work on that for our second podcast, guys. Subscribe to the Trust Your Beekeeper podcast coming up.
Oh, God. Trust Your Bee. Oh, God. Will, I think we need a little bit of follow-up on this Chaos League, as I will call it. Have you made a decision as to whether you're joining that thing or not?
I did. I actually just messaged him today that as much as I want to, I've already got too many leagues and looking to try to get out of one probably after this year. I don't know where I'm going to make that choice, but I'm already in, not even counting, the Megala Bowl and the Charity League. Technically, I guess 6, 3 Dynasty, 3 Redraft. I know our 1 Dynasty not as active, but even 5 active leagues is, probably my limit there. So don't think I can join it, but I will try to stay updated on it, see how it goes.
It's the worst part of creating a podcast for anybody thinking about starting a fantasy football podcast. If you start interacting with people on, Twitter or Facebook or wherever you choose to interact, like you start talking with other people in the industry, you start getting invited to leagues, and it's like, I just can't handle this many leagues. Like I want to join with you guys and see, but man, it's a lot of work.
It really is. It's a good problem to have, but a problem nonetheless.
Yeah, problem nonetheless. But with that in mind, some listeners are viewing problems of their own that we're going to set out to solve here. Will, you ready to jump into some of these questions?
Let's do it.
Cool. We did change the format a little bit. Instead of going position by position, we kind of just jumbled them all up. So if you like it and hate us, drop us a line on Twitter at Trust Your Board and let us know what you think. But we'll test out something a little bit different. But to keep tradition alive, we will start at the quarterback position. Will, Joe Burrow at Philadelphia or Carson Wentz or Cincy?
This one's tough. And, going into the year, I think they were much further apart. But I think they're both on different trajectories. I think I probably still lean Wentz, but this is like a last game to show it to me versus Burrow. It's like, all right, I want to see one more good week and then, he takes over. I wouldn't put it past you if you want to go Burrow here. The Eagles defense has been bad. The Eagles defense, I think, has been okay to bad. So both have decent matchups. But I think the Bengals haven't really had that much of a test the first week against the Chargers. Tyrod didn't do much. It was kind of a sloppy game. And last week was a big running game for the Browns, but Baker looked good in the passes he had. So I think this is, kind of all or nothing here for the Eagles. They know in this game they got a pretty tough stretch coming up after that. So I imagine they try to get right here in this game. So I'm going to go Wentz, but this is the week that, I think for Wentz, it's, if you can't do this, you're probably cutting most leagues. And Burrow, if he stays in the Flames, I mean, he looked, okay his first week, looked pretty good last week. There's another good game here. You might be able to, kind of jump in with him. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, well, when we got the question on Twitter initially, I was like, oh, it's Wentz. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm staring at it, and the words are forced to come out of my mouth. I just don't like it. But I think my distrust of Wentz is trumped by my just lack of trust in rookie quarterbacks in general. So, like you, I want to see a little bit more from Burrow. I think, I obviously, like everyone else, don't like what I've seen from Wentz, but I think he could pull something together against the Bengals defense. I also think that Jim Schwartz is a DC that could create some problems for a rookie quarterback. So I put a little bit of faith in him, even though, like you said, the Philadelphia defense has been stellar or anything. But I think he could give some confusing looks, and I don't think we're going to see a game from Burrow like we saw against Cleveland. So I'll stick with Wentz's too, but like you, Wentz as well. But like you, if you would prefer to go Burrow here, I'm not going to argue with it. I totally.
All right. So next up, we've got PPR. It looks like all running backs here. Not the prettiest one, but after all the injuries we've seen the last week here, I imagine something like this is going to be on a lot of our listeners' minds. So we've got PPR, 4 different running backs. I believe we're only picking one of them. We've got Ronald Jones in Denver. We've got Myles Gaskins in Jacksonville. That's tomorrow night. Boston Scott at home for the Bengals, or Jordan Howard in Jacksonville as well tomorrow night.
It's tough, but it's also kind of easy at the same time. I think it's tough because I don't want to start any of them, but it's easy in that one of them jumps out to me. Boston Scott, I'm not considering. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's really done that much this year.
And Sanders got like 23 touches.
Yeah, exactly.
This week, he's going to be locked and loaded the rest of the way. Boston Scott will be, decent if you really need something because he'll get some work. But unless Sanders gets hurt, I don't think there's much coming from Scott.
Yep. So we're removing him. I'm also going to remove. I guess I'm going to take Rojo out next. Which, man, I don't know. Like Rojo and Howard are tied to me. Howard's just not doing anything. He's been decent for fantasy because he's been falling into the end zone, but he gets in the end zone on like 5 carries or something. Like, he's just not what I and a lot of other people thought that he could be this year so far. So I'm eliminating Howard because of that. Rojo, what's going to happen there? I don't know. He could come out and be the starter, and I kind of feel like they're going to give him another chance, but it very well could be Fournette as well, and I'm just not playing that game. Gross. So I'll take Gaskin. He's getting just as many, if not more, carries than Howard. He's also seemingly secured what we thought was going to be the Matt Breida pass catching role. And he's been usable for fantasy. So, do I think he's got the highest ceiling? Probably not. That's probably Rojo. But Rojo's floor is also non-existent. And Gaskin's floor is, 3 catches, 40 yards and a handful of carries. So I'll take Gaskin here. How about you?
Yeah, I think this one's fairly easy. I cross Scott off right away and pretty much cross Howard off right away as well. Until I see otherwise, he's just a touchdown dependent guy. And sure, maybe he plunges across for, 2 1-yard touchdowns, but I'm not going to rely on that. So it's down to Rojo or Gaskins for me, and I'm going to go Gaskins as well. I like the usage, and I imagine if he continues to play well, it's going to only go up. We know what Howard is, pretty much know what Breida is, but Gaskins is a little more the unknown, and you got some opportunity for him to develop and just get better as it goes along. So I think, Rojo, and until I see some clarity there, I'm just worried, especially with Fournette looking good. Last game, I know at least one, if not both of his touchdowns were long runs, but he still had a solid game, and I think that came after a Rojo either fumble or missed block. So it could be the transition to Leonard Fournette happening right now. So yeah, pretty easy. I'm going to go Gaskins in this one.
Okay, another running back question here. Well, PPR, David Johnson at Pittsburgh or Josh Kelly versus the Panthers?
Yeah, this one's tough. In a vacuum, probably going David Johnson based on what we've seen this year. But when we look at the offenses, or I'm sorry, the defenses they're playing, no one has gotten it going against Pittsburgh yet. I know Melvin, I think, had a late touchdown, but overall, Saquon was bottled up in week 1. Melvin, I don't think, did much of the game. So it could be a long day for Dave Johnson. Maybe that means he gets some targets, in a negative game script. But with the Pittsburgh offense, I don't know they're going to run away from anybody. So it could be a closer game and just a sloppy game. Whereas Josh Kelly gets a pretty bad Panthers defense. And, if we get in a situation where the Chargers defense, which is pretty good, can match up and shut down the Panthers offense, you may have some pretty good game script there from Kelly. So I don't know. I think it's going to be, in theory, I probably lean Kelly. But do I have kind of the kahunas to do it when push comes to shove and actually make the lineup change? I don't know. I want to say Josh Kelly. Now, I don't know if I can actually do that when we get to push comes to shove, but I want to say it's Josh Kelly there.
You know me, I'll roll the dice. I'm definitely taking Kelly here. Basically, both points you mentioned, the running backs just haven't done anything against Pittsburgh. Could the game script work out in David Johnson's favor and him catch a lot of passes and be good because of that, and then he falls in the end zone once? Absolutely. I think Kelly's just got the matchup, and he's got Herbert as well. I think, if I'm the coach, my plan with my rookie quarterback is to protect him with the run, and they can do that with Eckler and Kelly, and both of them can be valuable. So, yeah, the matchup warrants it, I think. So, yeah, I'll go with Kelly, and I'll be pretty confident with that decision, even though, it sounds weird to say. But, yeah, that's how I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to go with Kelly here.
All right. Next up, we've got a PPR matchup. We got AJ Green in Philly, Preston Williams in Jacksonville, and that's also on Thursday night, so tomorrow. Today, if you're listening to it. And Laviska Shenault also on Thursday at home for the Dolphins. So pick one there, PPR, Steve.
Pretty easy for me. I'm going with AJ Green. I don't think he should be scared off as to, the week he had last week. He's still getting plenty of targets. So I think he's in for a good week. Preston Williams has been fine for fantasy, but he's also kind of salvaged his week last week. So he is scary to the point where I actually dropped him in our league. Just not seeing what I want to see out of him thus far. And Chenault's interesting, especially if Chark's going to miss time, because they're talking about him potentially missing time now. So that would open up things for him, but I don't know. I'm kind of shaky on him. I don't fully trust what he's been doing yet. So I'll go with AJ Green and follow those targets. How about you?
Yeah, it's tough for me. I like AJ Green with the targets, absolutely. Probably, I don't think Laviska is a guy you can't play, but based on the opportunity here and just the guys that are available, I'm not going to play him over either of these guys. But I do think Preston, is going to turn it around here. He's looked good. He's played on a lot of snaps. I believe it was something like 80 or 85% of snaps. And he also went up against Gilmore against the Patriots and the corner for Buffalo. I can't remember his name right now.
White, right?
Yeah, Tre'Davious White. Yeah, so he was, from what I understand, shadowed by both of them pretty frequently in those games. So, he played a lot of snaps, 2 really tough matchups. I think, I probably still go AJ Green in this matchup, but I wouldn't be scared away from Preston Williams. I think he is, has the potential to break out here going forward. The schedule opens up for them a little bit here in the short term. So I'm leaning AJ Green. But Preston Williams isn't bad, especially if you kind of want to get a guy in this first game and see what he can do and then kind of, know what you need in the Sunday, Monday games.
Awesome. So the next one, actually, 2 players on my team in our redraft league.
Is this you, Steve?
It's not. I'm going to start both of them, although I understand the hesitation on one. PPR, Robert Woods at Buffalo or Deontay Johnson versus Houston.
Yeah, and I get, the matchup isn't easy. We're going to see, I think, a recurring theme. Will you start any of your Rams against Buffalo? But I'm still going to go with Woods. I know Deontay Johnson was targeted heavily, and he's got a chance to really get going. But I think this could be a matchup for Pittsburgh where, maybe they get the passing game going early. But if Houston can't move the ball against that Pittsburgh offense, it could be a closer game, or it could be a game where Pittsburgh tries to run the ball more, and maybe we see James Conner really get involved more. I'm going to go with Sataoun and Woods. I don't know that White is going to be shadowing him. I know he plays more on the outside and Cup plays more on the inside. But I just think Woods is going to be the guy to start here. But I think this one is pretty close, and I wouldn't mind going either way. I just think there's too many options in Pittsburgh for me, and that's kind of my tiebreaker.
Yeah, I'm pretty firmly with Deontay Johnson here. I like his target share. I like the matchup. And on the flip side, I'm scared of Woods. I'm, peek behind the curtain, debating starting MVS over Woods this week in our league. Like that worried about Woods. And part of it, isn't totally the matchup. But what happened last week too, like Woods was good for fantasy because he had a touchdown on that rushing play. But from like an actual wide receiver standpoint, he had 2 catches for 14 yards against the Eagles. So, if something happens like that again against Buffalo, and, if he gets White, then it's certainly possible. You're looking at less than 2 points or, 2 points and having on PPR, half point PPR or something like that. And that's kind of worrisome where, MVS on the flip side, he hasn't had under 60 yards this year. So that seems a little bit safer for me, especially when you're playing New Orleans, who just got lit up by Vegas of all teams. So like, that's where I'm coming from. I know we're kind of sidetracking from the question. It's Deontay Johnson for me, as I said. But I guess we'll ask that question. Well, would you start MVS over Woods? I'm assuming not.
No, and I do want to point out that I think the game script is going to be flipped here. I am, the Rams got out to such a big lead. The Eagles were battling back, and they never took the lead. They got it close. I think it was 21-16 was the closest they had it. But the Rams had a game plan. The Eagles, their safeties and their linebackers are not good, so they knew they were going to be able to, have those short passes and runs, and they stuck a lot to the runs there. So I think that they had the game script in hand, whereas I'm not arguing that he doesn't have a tough matchup there in Buffalo, but I imagine the way that Buffalo is playing, I don't see the Rams getting out to a quick lead. So I imagine the game script's going to be a little more in Woods' favor.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. So next up, PPR Higbee at Buffalo or Jonnu at Minnesota?
I like them both. I think with White being on, Woods or maybe taking some Cup away, that Higbee could have a good week. But I'm going to follow the matchup here. Minnesota has been getting trashed on every game every game they've played. AJ Brown, I think, still isn't practicing. So, I think it's going to be another good week for Jonnu, probably another good week for Corey Davis. And Higbee should be fine, but, I'll take the guy with the good matchup over the guy with the bad matchup here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay either way, but I'm going to stay in the Flames with Jonnu for now. I tried to claim him in one league and wasn't able to get him. And I think we have him in the Mega Bowl. But yeah, he's been playing great. As long as AJ Brown's not in, he is the guy, and he still should be pretty good even when he does get back. So stay in the Flames there. I'll give me Jonnu.
Okay, got another quarterback one here. Would you rather start Watson at Pittsburgh, Minshew versus the Dolphins, or Herbert versus the Panthers? Tough one.
Yeah, tough one. I think I need to see it again for Herbert. I know that defense is not good, but I'm just not thrilled there. So it's Watson or Minshew for me, and I hate to sit Watson because he's good, likely going to get a lot of trash yardage, but I think I'm going to go Minshew here. I'm hoping, and I think maybe it's more of a hope that we got, on paper, pretty crappy matchup, but fantasy-wise, it should be exciting tomorrow with the Dolphins and the Jaguars. I just don't want to play anybody against that Pittsburgh team. Even if he does get trash yards, could be due for a couple turnovers and just really limiting his possessions for Watson. So I'll go Minshew. What about you?
I got the same debate. I mean, Herbert could have a good game. Panthers defense is trash, but yeah, I need to see more out of him. So we're going to push that one aside. I think I fall on the opposite end. I love starting Minshew. If Minshew's the way you want to go, I'm perfectly fine with that. But I think I'm going to trust Watson. Part of the reasoning for that, and it's kind of dumb because we're talking about a backup QB that the team didn't game plan for, but Driscoll had a pretty good game against Buffalo. I think he had somewhere around like 22 fantasy points. Pittsburgh, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he threw a pick, but that's pretty good for a guy coming in relief that we've seen some stuff from, and it hasn't been good. So again, Pittsburgh did a game plan for him. It messes some things up, so take that with a grain of salt. But I think Watson's better than Driscoll, so I think he could put up some points. And I think his floor is at least solid, where Minshew's floor is terrible. So yeah, I'm fine with you go either way. I would personally go with Watson though.
Right. Next up, we've got Matt Stafford in Arizona or Matt Ryan at home for the Bears.
This might surprise some people, but this is pretty easily Stafford for me. I think that game could be pretty high scoring. Whereas on the flip side, the Falcons have been lighting it up recently, but the Bears haven't been allowing passing touchdowns either. So something's got to give. Either the Bears are going to break and start allowing passing touchdowns, or the Falcons are going to get stopped. And I don't really want to play that game when I have an option like Stafford up against Arizona. So I will lean on Stafford and hope for a shootout. What about you?
Yeah, this one's close. I'll go Ryan just in a vacuum with the 2 quarterbacks. The matchup definitely lends more to Stafford. Arizona's played fairly well, though, in defense. I know going into the year, we all kind of assumed there would be a pushover defense, but they've played pretty well. Not, the best matchups. Obviously San Francisco's tough, but Washington not so much. So we'll see, in a better matchup against this Lions offense. But I think it comes down to health as well. Is Julio going to play? I know he potentially has a hammy. Are we going to get Golladay back? So if everyone's healthy, I think I still lean slightly to Matt Ryan at home. The Bears have been surprisingly able to move the ball a little bit, and I just am worried, about just, trying to keep up with that Arizona offense. I know it seems like the way their offense plays, it lends the defense being able to get downhill. So I'm going to go, if everyone's healthy, Ryan slightly. But Stafford is not a bad play against that Arizona defense.
I can't believe we're about to ask this next one, Will, but half-point PPR, Joe Mixon at Philly or Robinson versus the Dolphins?
Yeah, man. Staying the flames with Robinson is what people are hoping here, I'm guessing. I wouldn't be able to bring myself to start Mixon, because the way I would look at this one is, would I be more mad at myself if Robinson outscores Mixon on my bench, or if Mixon outscores Robinson on my bench? So I'm going to go Mixon. The Eagles have been, really bad at linebacking, and they've been getting run all over, especially in the last game. So I'm going to go with Mixon in this matchup. I would put it past you to start Robinson, decent matchup against the Dolphins. Maybe there's another spot that you can fit him in your lineup, but I'm not going to get too cute here. I'm going to go Mixon.
I will get cute. I think I'm going to start Robinson. As
Oof.
maddening as it sounds, I mean, he's been getting a ton of work. I think it's a solid matchup for him. On the flip side, Mixon hasn't really been doing anything. So, it's kind of like the Josh Kelly versus David Johnson discussion of like, yeah, I'll roll the dice. Why not? I mean, a lot of listeners have figured that out by now. I'll gamble. And if you're somebody that likes to gamble too, come along for the ride. I'll take Robinson here.
All right, next up, PPR. We got a receivers and tight end here. So we got Russell Gage versus the Bears, Dallas Goedert versus the Bengals, Preston Williams in Jacksonville, and Laviska Shenault versus the Dolphins.
So again, we've gone over two of these players before. Preston Williams, now I'm not trusting him right now. And Laviska Shenault, not trusting him either. Both could be fine. I like both of them. It's just, I'm not that trusting. It does depend a little bit on the Julio injury, I guess. The original pick, assuming health for everyone for me, is probably Goddard. I'm not scared off by his week last week. I think he can be pretty solid this week, especially against the Bengals defense. But if Julio's out, I don't think he's going to be. But if he's out, I don't think I could pass up Gage. He's already looked good, and his target and quality of receptions only going to go up if Julio's out. So if Julio's out, I'll take Gage. If Julio's playing, I'll take Goddard.
Yeah, definitely Julio dependent for me as well. But if Julio's playing, I'll go Gage. Or sorry, if Julio's out, I would go Gage. If he is in, I do, as I mentioned earlier, I'm rising on Preston. Maybe you want to see it this week first, but it's not a bad option. Against a pretty bad defense. And I am hoping this is a high-scoring game. I probably lean Goddard slightly. I like the matchup against the Bengals, and as we said, this is kind of a make or break week for the Eagles. But I something about Preston this week. I think he essentially has a breakout there. Maybe he's more targeted. I know Goddard, for a number 2 tight end on the team, has been heavily used. So I will agree with you on Goddard, but something about Preston Williams. If you want maybe a more pop opportunity for him, to go off in a national television game, there's definitely a chance there.
Okay, we've got a standard scoring one up next. Mark Ingram versus Chiefs, J.K. Dobbins versus Chiefs, or McKinnon at the New York Giants.
Especially trying to pick which of the two you want. I'm going to go Ingram over Dobbins. For now, until we see Dobbins consistently being the guy, it's going to be tough. Either, both of them are going to be good, but, week to week, one of them's going to pop, and it's going to be hard to predict. I'd probably still go Ingram over McKinnon, but it looks like McKinnon's going to be the guy. They probably still want to limit him with, just the injury history they have there. So McKinnon's not a bad option, especially against that Giants defense. But I think I lean Ingram. But, man, McKinnon, especially with the way that we know Shanahan can run his offense, and the Giants without Barkley, could be somewhat hapless. But we'll see. There's a lot of unknown in that game on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to go with, I think, the known commodity here in Ingram. How about you?
I will be on the opposite end. It is Ingram between him and Dobbins for me. I think Ingram's got a lot of potential because it could be a higher scoring game. But I'm not going to pass up McKinnon against the Giants. My only fear of McKinnon is that he gets all the work, and then you get down to the goal line, and Jeff Wilson comes in and steals the goal line touches. We've seen that from Jeff Wilson before. I know he's kind of joked about because he's always like the fourth wheel on this team, but he has stolen touchdowns in the past, and he very well could do that again, given they're without Mostert and Coleman. But I like McKinnon. The pass catching role is incredibly valuable for that team, and he's definitely going to be the pass catcher. He should be the regular running back as well. So I'm not going to pass that up. I'll take McKinnon. But as we've said before, if you like Ingram and really think it's going to be a shootout, I'm fine with that. Okay, well, our last quarterback question here. We got Minshew versus the Dolphins or Mahomes at Baltimore.
I know the matchups are there. I don't think I can pass Mahomes for Minshew here. The matchups obviously lean to him, but I'm gonna go Mahomes here. I'll pass it to you, but add a little caveat because in one of my leagues, I don't have Minshew, but I do have Mahomes against Baltimore. I've also got the opportunity of Josh Allen, and I believe he's at home. At home versus the Rams.
I I don't boy. So for the Minshew one, I get it. Mahomes has a tough matchup. Minshew's been doing really good. It's probably too cute for me. Could Minshew outscore Mahomes? Absolutely, but I'm going to stick with Mahomes in that one. In yours, it's a lot more interesting, but I'm still going to stick with Mahomes. And the reason being is that I trust Baltimore to put up points against the Chiefs. And I trust the Chiefs to put up points against Baltimore, and I can see that being a pretty high-scoring game. Josh Allen has looked great, but I can see just the game script working out to where he's just not leading a lot, and he's not putting up 300 yards, and you could see like an old-school Josh Allen game. Yeah, I mean, with these two, you're kind of nitpicking, right? Like, they both can be fine, but I will stick with it's weird to say start your studs considering Josh Allen is definitely a stud now, but I'm going to stick with Mahomes. I think the upside's higher. Were you leaning in any certain direction?
Probably just staying Mahomes. When in doubt, I try not to get too cute and just, I'd be, more mad if I sat Mahomes and he outscores Allen than vice versa. But 2 weeks in a row, I believe Allen outscored him, and and the team's pretty good, 2-0, second, points and all, but it's definitely appetizing.
Last start sit here, Will. It's a PPR pick 2. McLaurin at Cleveland, Chark, assuming he plays, versus the Dolphins, and Parker at Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got 2 of these guys in our league. I got Chark and Parker right now. I'm playing them both. I'm going to play McLaurin over both of them, though. I think he's, damn near locked himself into, wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 going forward this year and in the future. Man, all he needs is a quarterback because he, looks like he is the real deal out, even without a good quarterback on this team. So McLaurin, easy for me, and it comes down to the injury. If Chark looks, he's active and he's healthy and not a decoy, I'm going Chark. If Chark's not playing, or maybe he's potentially going to be limited, Parker's not a bad option, but McLaurin and Chark for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I could. It's definitely McLaurin. That's a smash. I don't know if I could start Chark over Parker right now. I mean, Parker's apparently fully healthy. He's doing full practices. I think I trust him against Jacksonville a little bit more than I trust Chark against the Dolphins. I mean, the injury aside, Xavier Howard's there. If he's hurting and he draws Howard, that's kind of a worrisome combo. So as much as I like Chark, I think I'm sitting him down here, and I'm going to roll with McLaurin and Parker.
All right, so that'll wrap us up for start sits. We're going to take a look here at a couple of trades. I've got a couple of dynasty ones first here. 12-team Superflex tight end premium Corey Davis for Curtis Samuel in a 2020 third.
I think this is an even trade. I feel I've gone back and forth on this one a lot. I kind of like Corey Davis because he's been doing pretty good, but you got the AJ Brown situation, you got Tannehill probably overperforming, and you have a long history of him not putting up the numbers. I think I'm going to take the Samuel side, and it's kind of just because the pick's there. If it was just Corey Davis and Curtis Samuel, I'd probably stick with the upside of Corey Davis. But since the third is on that side, in a Superflex league, that's going to push some quality players down a little bit further into the third with a tight end premium. That's going to raise up some tight ends, make them more valuable. So the third, you could find some better values there than you would in your normal dynasty league. So I'll go with Curtis Samuel in the third here, but I think it's fair overall. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair overall. I'd probably take Samuel in the third as well. I mean, it's tough because if you're the Davis owner, you've likely spent a top 5 pick on him in your rookie draft. You're waiting, and the last couple years you weren't getting any type of offers, and now he's starting to look decent, and you'd hope probably you can get a better offer than this. But I just don't know that this is the breakout. I don't know that the opportunity's even there going forward, right? You've got AJ Brown, you got Jonnu. Tannehill's good, but, probably still a rushing offense. So I probably lean Samuel in the third and then this one. But, if anything, I probably just hold on both sides. I don't know that I'd make a trade either way.
Okay, I got another dynasty here. Just a regular PPR, Robbie Anderson and a projected early second or Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I probably still hold on to Justin Jefferson. I know it's been a rough start. He hasn't done too much yet. But you spent an early first, or sorry, probably mid to late first on him in the rookie draft this year. Robbie's looked good, but I don't know that it's going to continue long term dynasty wise. He's probably still a pretty volatile asset where Justin Jefferson has that opportunity to break out and really be a wide receiver one, at some point. Projected early first is interesting, but with all the uncertainty and you just don't know what it's going to be, maybe something happens in your league and that, drops that projected early first or early second changes. So I'm going to stick with Justin Jefferson, still the best asset in this trade.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think, in hindsight, you could look back at this and maybe the Robbie side is the side to take, especially if you're a contender, given how he's performed. But, I'm not going to let 2 games override Robbie's whole career. We've seen stuff like this from him before, and he's disappeared right afterwards. And on the flip side, Justin Jefferson hasn't done anything like you said, but if you're expecting him to do something, shouldn't have been, because he's a rookie wide receiver and they tend just to not show up immediately. So I feel like you're doing one of the deals where you're selling Robbie at his height and you're selling Jefferson at his low. And like you said, the second could project early, but 1 or 2 trades and suddenly that's in the middle of the second, or something happens. There's a COVID outbreak and the season ends early and your league's got to do something wacky with pick ordering next year and it ends up in the middle or something. So I'm sticking with Justin Jefferson as well.
All right. Next up, we're moving on to redraft. We got Superflex, half PPR, Diggs, James Robinson, and Leonard Fournette, or Joe Mixon and Tyreek Hill. Kind of that Robinson and Mixon head-to-head that we saw in our start set.
I know, right? This is super interesting. I think I'm going to take the opposite side here. I still want Hill over Diggs. I really just don't want to deal with Fournette. Like, I don't know what's going to happen there. I really don't want to gamble on it. I am a Rojo owner in our league and I hate it. And then it comes down to Mixon and Robinson, who, for this week, I like Robinson, but I think over the season, Mixon eventually gets it going and he has a higher upside. So I will take the Mixon and Hill side here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that as well. I mean, I get, adding some depth by, trading 2 for 3. Diggs is playing really well right now. And I think Hill's looked okay, right? I think he had one really nice touchdown this week. But I think you may be kind of selling Diggs, high. Maybe he keeps going, who knows? But this is, a pretty good opportunity to sell. And Robinson and Fournette are so uncertain. You're going to be trying to figure out what to do week to week, whereas Mixon, even in a tough matchup, you're still plugging him in, and you'll live with a bad performance because of the upside that he's going to give you week to week. So I'll stay with the Mixon Hill side as well.
Okay, I got another redraft. No scoring specified here. Philip Lindsay or Myles Gaskin and Logan Thomas?
Yeah, this one's kind of nasty. Lindsay, do we have injury diagnosis on him?
Like official, week to week injury, when he's due to come back? No, I think he's doubtful for this week. I believe when they originally diagnosed him, they said 4 weeks. I could be wrong, but I think it was 4 weeks, and that was week 1 in the middle of week 1. So I don't know if they counted that or not. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at week 4 or 5 or 6, somewhere in there for a return.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably go Lindsay as long as we think that he's going to be healthy. I think he's the best long-term asset. Gaskin, we see he's going to be in your start-sit decisions week to week. You never know when you're going to play him. And Thomas is okay if you need a filler, but I imagine most leagues you're going to be able to find someone the same or better than him on the waivers. So it's pretty much Lindsay for Gaskin for me, and I'm going to go Lindsay there.
For me, it's going to depend on where I'm at. If I'm a 2-0 team, I'll probably take Lindsay and ride out not having him and, hope for the upside of when he returns. If I'm a team that's 0-2 or 1-1 and I'm not too happy with it, I'll probably go with Gaskin because I don't want to wait for Lindsey to return. Because even when he returns, say he returns week 4, I'm not starting in week 4. I'm probably not starting in week 5 either. Like I want to see what's happening, what his usage could be like before I trust him. So I'll take the what is kind of known about Gaskin now to try to help your team in that kind of situation.
Awesome. Well, we got one more trade option here. So redraft 10-team PPR. We got DeAndre Hopkins or Amari Cooper and Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, I'll take Cooper and Gordon here. I get it, trying to upgrade from Amari to Hopkins, given how many targets Hopkins has been getting. It just seems like an overpay to me. So I will happily take Cooper and Gordon.
Yeah, probably an overpay. I think I'm in a situation where I'm probably staying where I'm at, depending on who I have. Like I probably don't trade Cooper Hopkins for that upgrade. But if I have Hopkins, I've experienced a couple really good weeks from him, and looking at Cooper, it's going to be more inconsistency. There's so much target share kind of decisions you have there, and Melvin, we were talking about Lindsey as a potential buy for a few weeks. He looked good, but he hasn't looked great while he's had the whole backfield. I think Hopkins is the best player in this trade. So I lean Hopkins, but overall, I'd probably say this is a kind of stay and keep your players on both sides.
That is fair. That is going to wrap up today's podcast. Will, do you have any parting words?
Good luck, everybody, here in week 3. Hopefully, we don't have the injury apocalypse that we saw this week. But yeah, just make sure you get your lineup set, and as we said, more important than ever to get your Thursday guys in the starting positions and your Monday night guys down in the flex.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for listening, everyone. Always remember, trust your board.